And happy Friday the 13th, January Friday 13th, 2023. If you can hear me, let me know over in the comments. A few of you are already filtering in here. Looks like there's about 8 to 10 of you filtering in. We're just starting. Got a whole list of things to talk about. I know Friday night's not my not my normal live time, but it was now or never for this weekend. All right, good evening, JH, CH, Frederick. This guy hit the like button. You should too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, I was trying to see around the bottle. Hope everybody is doing excellent tonight. Tim is working on the logo for Bits and Bourbon. So watch for that podcast to start dropping very, very soon, as we get the logo done. And what am I enjoying this evening? It is none other than Colonel E.H. Taylor Small Batch Bottled in Bond. Excellent bottle. Kind of hard to find, but excellent bottle. So if you've never had E.H. Taylor Small Batch Bottled in Bond, I'm going to get a single barrel here pretty soon too. But yeah, so that's what we're drinking tonight. We're drinking it neat. It's been a week. Let me tell you, has it been a week? And wrapping up all kinds of stuff, trying to get stuff wrapped up for year end. We already paid our Q4 estimated taxes. Now we got to get ready for the real deal. All right, let's go over to the comments. Good morning, Michael, Tim, Gibby, Sistek, Jeremy, Brian, Terranova, Joe Trelli, Prav. Good evening, all. 20 of you and 8 likes. Hit that like button. So, Jordan doesn't look like Jordan is on here. But thanks to Jordan. So I use the Stream Deck companion software in other applications to take multiple Stream Decks, combine them, do a lot of macro, multiple key presses and things like that. But I didn't even think of using it on the Linux system to control the Stream Deck. And so I am actually running the companion, and so it is working. So if I don't want to give you like Inception vibes here, but here's something that you can see, right? So it should have just switched over where you can see the screen of me. And so this is an awesome open source, self-hosted. These are thousands of pieces of self-hosted software. I've been looking at that, working on a few things. And so now we should be back to full screen. James, get you a drink. James, are you drinking? What are you drinking tonight, James? Yeah, happy Friday the 13th. And like I said in the title, we make our own luck, right? So LT says, how we know we're going to like it until the end? Well, you're here watching, and I guess maybe that's some extra critical thinking skills. But I guess if you don't like it, you can just tune out, right? So the red phone, Frederick asked question, where did you get your red analog phone? That phone right there actually came from my aunt and uncle, who live northwest of me. And they had it in their basement, and I put a thing on Facebook a couple years back, last year maybe, the year before, I don't know, the last 3 years are a big blur, right? And I was like, hey, if anybody's got an analog phone, I've got a project for it. And my aunt was like, hey, we got you. And they certainly did. So that's where that came from. Jade says, I've been looking for a locally hosted password manager that can be air-gapped. Well, that's anything that's on the network. I mean, I guess you could have an air-gapped network. But Bitwarden, and there's a couple other ones. Michael says, if I didn't have bad luck, I would have no luck at all. That's a lot of us. James says, 4 Roses small batch. James is drinking 4 Roses small batch. Excellent, James. I broke out the E.H. Taylor out of the allocated shelf. So I am not a hoarder. I am not a flipper. I drink all the bourbon that I have. Now, obviously not all at one time, but bourbon is meant to be open and enjoyed, and I am enjoying it with you all here this evening. Jade says he's kind of bummed that Synology or QNAP doesn't have one. Well, I mean, Synology does have their C2 password manager, but once again, that's going to be all cloud-based. So Joe says, how many drinks before the stream? You seem very relaxed, LOL. Well, I just poured it literally before the stream. Sometimes you get into a week and like your support system where all those things that you have anxiety about, sometimes that bridge just breaks and you're just like, okay, I'm disassociating from all that for a while. I need to do something else, be positive. That's probably where I'm at. So this is my first drink. LT Hibbick says, okay, so I liked. If it goes bad, I'm going to need a refund. Haha, that's hilarious. Well, you have just as much skin in the game in the live stream as I do, so make sure you are active in the chat. Tim says, PF Sense question, can you give all VLANs internet and keep the default VLAN with no internet? Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. It'd be a pretty simple firewall rule for that, Tim. I mean, yeah, I don't see any reason you couldn't do it. So what's everybody else been working on this week? I got to tell you, I'm going to be doing a video on some software that I've deployed this week. And after you deploy it, you're like, why did I wait so long to do that? And one of those, let me see if I can pull it up here. And I've been seeing it, and everybody's like, it's awesome, and you got to do it because everybody likes a good status page, right? And so this is Uptime Kuma. It is a self-hosted monitoring tool, and damn, it's awesome. It is absolutely awesome. So they're preparing a demo for us. The demo goes out on port 27,000. We're just going to call this WH live stream. I'm not going to show y'all the password, but we'll just use the Firefox one. Yeah, why not? So this is Uptime Kuma, and it is awesome. So you can do different types of monitoring. So you can do HTTPS, where you actually have to do connections. Well, let's say that connection is, you have to authenticate. You can pass through authentication. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can set up notifications. It is absolutely fantastic. You can even do something just easy like a ping. So if we do this, we'll type in Willie Howe, and we'll do williehowe.com. I don't have notifications set up on here. This is just their demo. How often is the heartbeat going to go? We're going to check every 60 seconds. You can do retries before something gets marked as down. So if you got something that's kind of flapping and you know it, or it has the potential to flap or whatever, you can make it retry. You can also be notified if a cert is expiring like 5, 10, 15 days out. You can also ignore invalid certificates. So we'll go ahead and hit save on this, and you're going to see that it's going to connect, and we've got a green bar here. And so now you can see all of the things. And what I can do then is I can create a status page, and we're just going to call this, we'll call it Willie Howe, and we'll just say Willie. And next, and then it's going to ask us what monitors. So you can actually, if you have multiple things you're monitoring, you can create groups, right? So like routers, switches, firewalls, things like that, different types of services. You can create an incident and things like that. But I'm not going to add a group. I'm just going to add a monitor for Willie Howe. I'm going to click save. And so now we get this really cool just page that has a service. And this should look familiar. And then if I want to come in here and I want to create an incident, here's the really cool thing is that each one of these is a different color, right? So we can change whatever we need the background for the incident to be. So here I'm going to go danger, and it'll be like flood warning, blah, blah, blah. And I hit post, and then I hit save. And now at the top of this status page, we have this warning. So I am infatuated with Uptime Kuma. I'll do an install video because you can run it on the standard port that it comes on is 3001, but you can pair it with a reverse proxy if you want port 443, if you want to do that really quickly. Not necessarily a need to do that, but you can. So, all right. Let's see here. Back over to the comments real quick. Joe says, I'm on the treadmill. You're getting me through. Yeah, so I got to get back on the treadmill. I've had some things going on. I haven't been able to really get on the treadmill. And so hopefully this weekend I'm going to be back on the treadmill. Gibby says, replacing some Unify APs with GrandStream. All right. Jeremy says, love Uptime Kuma. Been using it at work for a few months now. Yeah, I'm doing a full-scale build-out for hundreds of devices, thousands of services right now. So you can imagine, Jeremy, how long it's taking to build that out. But once it's done, and then on the Linux machine that is hosting it, I actually have the active backup for business Linux client to do a bare metal backup, and I'm doing hourly snapshots of the physical boxes. I like an IT services platform to not be on the same virtual platform that we're supporting. I don't know, call me crazy, right? Have a little bit of redundancy there. But then I am backing that up with hourly snapshots at the top of the hour, and it's working fantastically. Prav says, love Uptime Kuma. I've got it running with 0 tiers so I can manage remotely as well. That's fantastic. Gibby loves it. He's going to put it on his micro tick. Oh, Michael says there's some problems with pfSense and Multiwan right now. Well, hopefully they get that fixed. Tim says, is it like Zabbix for monitoring? So it's like a... so you can't do, so like Zabbix, if you have the Zabbix agent, you can, monitor like a hard drive, usage. You can monitor, memory, CPU, all these things. This is basically like a fancy version of all of a status page, but it can do alerting if something goes down. So it's kind of the same, but different, if that makes any sense. Prav says, load Node-RED on the same VM as Uptime, and you can simulate other synthetic transactions. Are you talking like SNMP, Prav? JH says, I've been planning to get rid of all software as a service product for purchased alternatives. Yes, and that's the thing, right? So all of these cloud salespeople are going to tell you, oh, the cloud adoption is so high, it's never been higher. When in fact, just as many people are coming back out of the cloud as are going in. Hybrid is really the future. If I'm a, photographer, and I've got terabytes of pictures, why don't I, put those in the cloud as a backup? You can put them on your Synology. We support, a half a dozen photographers that use Synology as their customer portal. Alberto says, deployment of new GrandStream routers and AX APs. Waiting for Grandstream yet to be released switches with SFP Plus ports. Excuse me, yes, that is coming 2023. Prav says Zabbix is more advanced and it's not for everyone. Uptime's relatively simple and looks at uptime. Yes. And so once you get to a place in IT where you're expected, you know, to be a manager or a supervisor or a leader or whatever, sometimes management wants data, and management loves to not be inundated with details, right? That's our jobs as the IT professionals, to be inundated with those details and deliver a product to management that they can look at it at a glance and go, okay, we get it. So that's actually like part of the project that I'm working on. JH says, my batch 1 Edge router Lite died this week after 10 years. So was it the thumb drive that died or something else? Hey, Brian. Brian, did you get my email about the, about the stats on that rack? And Joe Trelli from Learn Blue Iris, he's got a vested interest here. He says, but the cloud is so cool. Who cares what it costs? And that, my friend, is exactly why companies are coming back out of the cloud. Jade says, so far I've gotten WordPerfect Office to replace Office 365 and CorelDRAW for a Photoshop replacement. I have to do that because, you know, as we inch closer to 2025, that's when Microsoft, you know, the speculation that Microsoft is going to make you go to the cloud, and I need to have an alternative. And the thing is, though, a lot of these companies, right? So we just did a Motorola police body cam deployment. They have a cloud offering, but they have, you know, on-prem offering. And we sat there and I had a conversation with the Motorola guy, and they know that Taser, which is Axon now, they are missing a huge swath of revenue because there are police departments, up to probably 100 body cams and more car cameras that won't go to the cloud because of the cost, right? They could be still getting those customers. Let's see what happens. Brian, did you want that rack or not? The missus is going to make me make a decision on the life of that rack. So you're going to have to let me know. Dr. Rob. How you doing, Dr. Rob? All right, so what else are we going to talk about? So you're going to hear me talk a lot about Linux over the next month or two. Be lots of shorts, lots of Twitter posts, lots of TikTok videos, because sometimes that's how I commit things to memory. And the Linux Plus study guide, the meat and taters part of it, has 820 some pages, right? Now, a lot of this stuff is going to be familiar to me. I'm just going to have to brush up on it. But some of it, and they actually start, like you could start this book knowing nothing about Linux, I think, and probably go past the exam. That doesn't mean you're going to be competent. That means you could pass the exam. But they tell you like how to pick your distro, right? And so they're going to go over RPM-based distros in here, or Yum. Well, funny story, I don't know how many people in here remember Yellow Dog Linux. So it was Red Hat, basically, that ran on the Macs, the Power PCs. And they had the first package manager that resolved dependencies for a Red Hat-based distribution. It was Yum. It was Yellow Dog Update Manager. And I ran it. I had one of those like translucent, like blue and, Macs, and I ran Yellow Dog Linux. I remember that. But this is also going to go over Debian-based distros, and I don't know how much they touch on Arch, but I'm not an Arch person. But one thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to learn how to partition a disk manually. I'm going to have to learn it because I know it's in here and I know it's probably going to be on the exam. So, but yeah, you're going to get like little, like 1 minute bites of things that I need to commit to memory. The best way for me to do that is to regurgitate those. So, good evening, James. And Dr. Rob, I will ping Tim about that. JH says, I use Network Olympus for monitoring and automation. I'm going to have to check that out. Libra NMS is one of my favorite network monitoring solutions. Yeah, Damn Small Linux is still around. Slacks. So I actually just set up a touchscreen kiosk for that police department running Linux Mint, and we took an old HP all-in-one touchscreen, and I got the touchscreen going on it. Excuse me, it boots up. It boots directly into the kiosk for the body cams, and there's an on-screen keyboard, and they just touch it and put their name in and grab a body cam and go. It's pretty sweet. Bob says the cool thing about reading a book like that is not necessarily memorizing everything, but knowing what is possible so that you can find, and that's the thing, right? So that's the thing about certifications. Let me say that right now. That if you are not, there's a lot of us tech folk out here on YouTube, and there seems to be a wide variety of opinions on certifications. I am a fan of certifications. If there's only one thing that comes out of certifications, Bob is right. When you read this, you understand the structure of how the companies that make Linux, how the companies that understand Linux, how the companies that are hiring people for Linux, you understand how they want you to operate. So I'm mostly self-taught, my entire life. But when you get that official curriculum, you will learn things that you never knew. And you're going to be like, oh my God, why didn't I know that sooner? Well, it's in the book, and it's going to make your life easy. So if nothing else, the study material, official study materials, will open up a world of knowledge that you may have never grabbed it before, whether you go sit for the exam or not. JH says, for Linux servers, I like turnkey Linux. So I haven't used a turnkey appliance in a long time. Jeremy says, F-disk, CF-disk, parted, all relatively easy to use. Yeah, so I think it's talking about more about the partition layouts too, Jeremy. Tim says, did you lock out the USB ports for police department so that it does not... The police computers do have a higher level of security on them. Thankfully, that department relies on a larger department. They have a connection to them for some of the software, so that department doesn't have to have an FBI audit. That larger police department does the FBI audit. Yeah, and Brian Murray says the O'Reilly Bash book is a must-read. So yeah, all those little O'Reilly books, and I've got a shelf full of them. They are fantastic. The PowerShell one is good too. So what else? You might be thinking like, okay, it's 2023, and you said there's going to be a lot of videos. There are going to be a lot of videos. In fact, what's going to happen, and I don't know if you are all a fan of this or not, but some of these videos that I'm filming are hours long. And so what's going to happen is they're going to get cut up into about 8 to 10 minutes, or where it makes sense, videos, because I think it's easier for people to digest those videos between 8 and 10 minutes. And then every other day for that series, so if it takes 2 weeks or whatever to release the series, every other day a video will be released. I don't know. What do you all think about that? Michael Fitzgerald says, the department I work with did the shadow IT thing and purchased a cheap body cam solution 12 months ago. It was purchased Windows 7, not even Service Pack 1. Yeah, so unfortunately in the corporate world, shadow IT is a thing. And leadership doesn't even know sometimes what to call it because they don't realize that it's happening, right? So that's something you got to deal with. So what else is on the docket? And I want to thank Synology for sending this out to me. This is the DS 923 Plus, and I had to get some hard drives for this. I've got a 10 gig card for it, and we are going to go through a full setup. This is an AMD processor. We'll scale up to 9 drives. And I'm super excited about this. I'm probably going to switch this over to being my my daily driver. We'll just have to see. There'll be a full setup video on this. So that's fantastic. I did order my Amazon. So Amazon, Joe, close your ears. But Amazon does do some things really awesome. So they have Amazon Basics SD, micro SD cards. So I was able to get two 128 gig SD cards shipped to my house. This is two of them, two separate cards for like $22. I caught them. They were like $11 a piece. So I was very happy about that. Now, something else showed up that I'm super excited about. So, and if you've been watching and listening, you kind of probably know how these videos are going to go with the 4 manufacturers, 5 manufacturers that I'm working with. But check this out. Oh, these things are heavy. So thank you to Grandstream for sending this out finally. So I finally got my hands. This is the 8-port switch. And this thing must weigh, I don't know, a lot. A lot. It's at least 5 pounds for this switch. And so this is the 8-port. Does not, what's funny is that it does not come with rack ears that I'm aware of. But it does have, what's funny about it is if you can see that, it does have standard rack ear holes on the side of the switch, right? So while they say that it is a desktop format, I'm thinking you can rack mount this with the proper kit. Oh, wait a minute. So yeah, so here are the ears. I didn't get that far into it. So here are the ears and the feet. And I could probably take one of my bigger ears from another device and probably get this thing in the rack. All right, so let's see here. And here is something that I have not seen anyone else in this price space send with a switch, and that is a ground cable. How awesome is that? That's right in there. And then of course you get the book. And how many pages? So the first, I think they should just provide a QR code that goes to the website, or just provide a one piece of paper. You know, this is the important thing, because this actually talks about all models and all of the indicators. So I actually have a ground bar too. So I could get that all hooked up. But yeah, there's your ground lug right there on the back. And then you got your standard power cable, Kensington lock over here. And then on the front, you've got your console. You've got your 8 ports. This thing is PoE. Thank you. So you're going to see videos on this upcoming very, 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 very soon. Very soon. In fact, if I didn't go live, that's probably what I would have been working on tonight. And then I cleaned my office, and I got to make sure that I don't get oh man. Got to make sure I don't get myself trapped in here again. Here is, they sent me the 8-port, excuse me, and a 24-port. And again, the 24-port comes with the ground cable. Oh, goodness gracious me. But yeah, here is, good Lord, the 24-port. Man, these things, if you're installing these and somebody tries to rob you, you could use this switch as a battering ram. But yeah, I got to get this little rack behind me out and get the big rack in here. So you can see I have an affinity for switches, for Ethernet switches. You know, I once had a lady whose husband is an IT manager for Caterpillar, and he's a programmer by trade, and you know, got into management. And she's like, I don't understand why you security and infrastructure guys are so important and are so in need and so sought after. And I just wanted to say, like, so you don't understand why the infrastructure people and the security people are important? Because, like, without the infrastructure, nothing else really matters, right? So, all right, over to the comments. Jade says, he says, I like those little desk units for a place to drop backups. Yeah, absolutely. Brian Murray says the switch looks like a Juniper. JH says needs dual PSU. If you're talking about the Switch, wait until you see their next models that are coming out. Joe says those SD cards were born in the cloud. Well, they got here really quickly. So I ordered them on a Sunday. They shipped on a Monday, and I had them on Tuesday. So I'm guessing that they were sitting in a warehouse very close to me. Michael says, I use ears even in a cupboard, so I have a nice zip tie loop point. Good evening, Jacob. JH says, Cisco 9200s don't even come with a ground cable. Right? Well, they probably figure if you got the money to buy, this is probably the Cisco mindset. Well, if you got the money to buy the Switch, you've got the money to buy a ground cable. I don't know. Gibby says, yeah, I'm configuring my GrandStream this weekend. Right on. Bob says, I've never tested it, but are the cases isolated ground? They should be referenced to the power ground. We'd have to take one apart, Bob, and find out. Brian says none of the catalyst switches come with wire, just the ring and a screw. Yeah. And Michael says I'm saving up for a PoE CRS 354. Is that a MikroTik, Michael? All right, what else is going on? So yeah, because one of the next videos I got to do is the Ingenious. That'll get me out in front of that, and then I'm going to start these other videos. The Linux stuff smattered in there. I'm pretty excited. Got some Protectly videos coming. So, yeah, grounding is always important, right? So it kills me when, you talk to these PBX guys, and they'll throw an IP PBX in, and they'll use the FXO ports, and they don't ground it. And then you get hum on the line and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, did you tune your FXO ports? And is the unit grounded? Blah, 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 blah. And they ground the unit, and guess what? Hum goes away. So, yeah. Bob says, just take a multimeter and test between the third lug and the ground screw on the cabinet. So you're saying, okay, Bob, let me make sure I understand this. So, Bob, I'm going to mount it in the rack, and then I'm going to take a multimeter and go between the third lug and where I have it grounded to on the rack. Is that correct? So, Brian, I feel you, right? Like this, every time I post something about a ground wire, I get that same comment. And, but even the manufacturer says that is your lightning protection grounding post. So you can take it up with them and argue with the manufacturer and tell them that they're wrong. Yeah, we don't have to have that conversation again. But yeah, it's right here in the book that little thing is your lightning protection grounding post. So I know that's what probably what bonding is. So yeah. All right, back over to the comments. No, I've downloaded ClearOS and then I never installed it. Would you do a comparison between the Ingenious versus GrandStream versus MikroTik? Are you talking about for switching, or are you talking about for access points, Prav? Joe says maybe 2023 will be the year we meet up, Willie. Well, I hope so. I kind of get jealous, to be honest with you. You and Tony hanging out, being all cool, eating 24-inch hot dogs. I don't feel like part of the group. No, I'm just kidding. It's cool that you guys get to meet up. Our turn will come, Joe. JH says, I have a data room with 400 full racks, and the fans and the service switches make some crazy static, even at 70% humidity. Okay, so here's a really good question, JH. What temperature and what humidity level should people be keeping their server rooms? And Bob says, yes, bonded is the better word. Let's see. Gibby says you can ground it to the rack, but must scrap paint. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so Prav says switching. Yeah, we can probably take a look at that. Jacob says, I did the same and found the ISO in my pile of crap I was organizing. Yeah. All right. Hey, Cody. Cody's in the house. Cody and I were just talking. I'm not going to repeat what he said. Maybe he'll repeat it on a live stream this weekend. But all the speculators are burning the midnight oil for Ubiquiti. I can tell you that. There it is from JH. Keeps his server rooms at 75 degrees Fahrenheit or freedom units, Bob Carpenter, with 60% relative humidity. And JH, where is the humidity measured at in a properly monitored server room? Brian laughed out loud at the hot dog comment. Yeah, you should have seen it. They sent me the pictures, and they're at this hot dog place, and this hot dog's like this long. And I'm like, good Lord, man, I'd like to eat I probably couldn't eat a 24-inch hot dog at this point in my life, but let's see. Good evening, Dave Robertson. If you are just joining us, I got my switches. And Joe lives 30 minutes away from Brian. Cody says he won't be mentioning it as it's not even an EA. This is true, but people digging through the firmware found these icons and shared it in the Discord. Dr. Rob, I'm actually going to ping Tim right now to see if he's going to have a chance to call you. Let's see. Tim. Hey, can you please touch base with Dr. Rob about his Ubiquiti stuff? Question mark, please. Thank you, period. And see, that is, you know, if they had a certification exam about how to type on that phone, I would have just failed it because the voice to text. But you know what? Why not enjoy the creature comforts, right? We're only here for so long. We're here for this long. The world is going to be here this long. And, you know what? Don't be afraid of your creature comforts. So JH says front and back of each rack at 8 total places is where the temperature and the humidity gets checked, as well as pressure sensors. Okay. All right. LT, just hop on over to the Ubiquiti Discord, go to the EA section and check it out. People love to look at the FCC filings and to dig through the firmware and look at what devices are in the firmware. So there is an FCC. Go check out the Ubiquiti FCC filings. I always thought it was funny. I'm going to leave it at this. I always thought it was funny that the Unified Dream devices have a place in them where you can set the Inform override. I always thought that was funny, and I'm going to leave it at that. But go check the FCC filings. Cody, I did not break EA. It's an FCC filing. It's public notice. And that setting I just talked about is in everybody's dream whatever. So, all right. They need to have better stock on the Edge lineup. Yeah, and if you've noticed on the store, they've renamed Edge to UISP Edge. So I'm wondering if we're going to get new firmwares all across the board on those devices. I don't know. But I got to run. I want to thank you all for being here. This is taking the place of what would normally be our Saturday stream. I want to thank you for being here. I do appreciate each and every one of you. And if you need me, reach out at williehowe.com. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.